Daniel Osborne sparked fear on Coronation Street tonight, with Bertie being terrified following his father's latest outburst. With the teacher feeling the stress after being harassed by some trolls, he begins to lash out. Daniel has been in the thick of it following the various revelations about Megan Walsh, who he recently dated. After she was outed as a groomer, Daniel has been unfairly grilled over his knowledge of her crimes. He's found solace in Jodi Ramsey, though he's blissfully unaware that she's the figure behind the Truth Teller social media account, which has harassed Daniel in recent weeks. He took the information to the police, and hoped it could be resolved quickly. Tonight's installment of the ITV soap began with Daniel scrolling through some of the vile abuse that he's been receiving, with Bertie startling his anxious father as he asked if he was okay. Daniel and Bertie headed out for a walk with Jodi, though Daniel was distracted by the online comments. Unaware that Jodi was the person behind some of the remarks, Daniel confided in her. She tried to downplay the gravity of some of the messages in order to assuage her own guilt and urged him to not stay glued to his phone as much. Unbeknownst to the trio, it seemed like they were being watched as they roamed around Weatherfield. They headed to Ken's and planned a visit to the aquarium. But, as Daniel took a phone call outside, he was accosted by two balaclava-wearing teenagers who covered him in tomato ketchup. Jodi caught up with Daniel following the incident and he admitted to fearing for his life as he initially thought it was acid they threw at him. He headed to Speed Doll for a catch-up with Adam, Idris and Alia, and Jodi joined him. The meeting soon turned sour, however, as Idris giggled at a video of the earlier incident involving Daniel. He lost his temper, and furiously trashed the table before being kicked out by Leanne. He returned home to Ken and Bertie with Jodi, but angrily launched his phone when seeing another message from a troll account. This scared Bertie, who ran back into his room in fear. Daniel was chastised by Ken for his behavior, but it seemed to be a moment of reckoning for him. With a nervous Jodi watching on, Daniel pledged to kill the people who were harassing him. Coronation Street, Daniel's outburst sparks Bertie terror. Weatherfield had seen its fair share of chaos, heartbreak, and shouting matches over the years, but nothing quite like what unfolded on Victoria Street that rainy Tuesday afternoon. Daniel Osborne had always tried to be a good father to little Bertie. Ever since losing Sinead, every decision he made felt like it carried double weight. Every mistake wasn't just his, it was something that could shape Bertie's entire future. But that day, something inside Daniel began to unravel. It started small. A missed school form. A forgotten lunch order. Then a phone call from school about Bertie's behavior. Daniel stood in the kitchen of number 8, gripping the edge of the counter as the teacher's voice buzzed through the speaker. Bertie has been unsettled again, distracted, not listening. Daniel barely heard the rest. His eyes flicked toward the living room where Bertie sat quietly on the carpet, playing with toy cars, humming softly to himself. Unsettled. Distracted. He was just a child. But Daniel's mind spiraled. He had been trying so hard, too hard, to keep everything together. Teaching job pressure, money worries, memories of Sinead creeping into every quiet moment. And now this. When the call ended, silence filled the house. "Bertie," Daniel said sharply. The boy looked up immediately, sensing the tone. "Yes, Daddy." That word, Daddy, should have softened him. Instead, it snapped something inside him. "You need to listen at school," Daniel said, voice tight. "They can't keep ringing me like this. I've got enough on my plate without. He stopped himself, but the damage was done. Bertie's small face fell. "I didn't mean to," he whispered. I forgot." Daniel paced. Forgot. That word echoed louder than it should have. "You can't just forget things, Bertie." Daniel suddenly raised his voice. The toy car in Bertie's hand dropped onto the floor. A heavy silence followed. Then came the moment that changed everything. A sharp knock at the door. Daisy Midgley stood outside, soaked from the rain, having come by to drop off some paperwork. She immediately sensed the tension the moment she stepped inside. "What's going on?" she asked gently. But Daniel didn't answer her. His focus was still on Bertie. "You know how serious this is?" Daniel continued, voice rising again. "Do you know what could happen if you keep acting like this?" Bertie started to breathe faster. His eyes darted between Daniel and Daisy. "I'm sorry," he said again, smaller this time. I'm sorry." Daisy stepped forward. "Daniel, stop. You're frightening him." That was the moment Daniel snapped fully. "Frightening him?" he barked. "I'm trying to raise him properly. No one else is stepping in, are they? It's always me." Bertie flinched at the shout. Daisy immediately moved between them. "Daniel, enough." But Daniel wasn't listening anymore. Years of grief, stress, and exhaustion boiled over in a single explosive outburst. "You don't get to tell me how to do this," he shouted. "You walk in here and suddenly you know best." Bertie backed away slowly toward the sofa. His little hands covered his ears. That sight, his son terrified, finally cut through Daniel's rage. Silence fell again. Heavy. Suffocating. Daniel looked down and saw Bertie trembling. The anger drained from his face almost instantly, replaced by shock. I didn't," he started, but couldn't finish. Bertie burst into tears. Daisy crouched beside him, pulling him close. "It's okay, sweetheart. You're safe." But Bertie didn't look safe. He looked broken. Daniel stepped back, horrified at himself. His breathing quickened as reality hit him like a slap. "What have I done?" he whispered. For a moment, no one spoke. Even the ticking clock in the kitchen sounded too loud. Daisy stood up slowly, her eyes fixed on Daniel. There was no shouting now, just disappointment. "You scared him," she said quietly. "He's just a child, Daniel. Not your enemy." Those words hit harder than any argument. Daniel turned away, unable to look at Bertie. "I was trying to help him," he muttered. "No," Daisy replied. "You were trying to control everything. There's a difference." Outside, thunder rolled over Weatherfield. Inside, Daniel sank into a chair, burying his face in his hands. Bertie clung tightly to Daisy, refusing to let go. And for the first time, Daniel realized something terrifying. It wasn't school. It wasn't stress. It wasn't even grief. It was him. He had scared the one person he swore to protect. Later that evening, after Daisy had taken Bertie upstairs, Daniel sat alone in the dim living room. The house felt different now, colder, heavier. A small toy car lay abandoned on the floor where Bertie had dropped it. Daniel picked it up slowly, staring at it as if it might explain everything he had just destroyed. "I'm sorry, Sinead," he whispered into the empty room. But there was no answer. Only silence. And the faint sound of Bertie still crying upstairs. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Crown ST.